There we go. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the studio this evening. So let's get ready to paint some watercolors live. I don't know what I was going to say there. Anyways, last week we painted on our Saturday Night Watercolors. I think we did a lighthouse. I'm going to continue with the nautical theme, and we're going to paint some sea lions on a buoy out in the ocean somewhere. I'm going to set this off to the side. I'm using Pro Art watercolor paper, 140 pound, 12 by 16 inches. Tonight, here it is. I picked it up at my local community college. Let me just open that up. I've already pre-drawn the picture. Here it is. I hope it looks similar to that. I really hope it looks similar to that. Here are the paints I'm going to be using this evening. Oh, if I could get them open. Here they are. They're in my limited palette. Let me let you know what they are. We got cobalt blue, French ultramarine, cobalt green, hooker's green, aureolin, cad yellow pale, alizarin crimson, quinacridone red, raw umber, burnt umber, Payne's gray, and neutral tint. So basically I've got a warm and a cool of each of the colors. I'm going to set that there. Here's my color card. I'm going to set it up in the front so I know what I'm going to be using. I can tell you. I'm going to be using my Art Secret quill brushes for quite a bit of this. I may also pull in for some of the finer work. This is an old set of brushes. Here's one that's not all worn off. These are Vinci sable brushes. I'll talk about those when I get to it. I think that's about it. Oh, I've got one more thing. I'm going to turn on right down here the paint cam. There it is. I tried this out on, what day did I try this out? On Wednesday. I posted a video on Wednesday, or I posted on Thursday, I don't remember. I tried this out right over here, and I thought it worked out pretty well. I got a few comments on it. I think people liked it in general, so I'm going to go ahead and stick with it, and you'll be able to see how I'm mixing everything right there. I won't have to worry about picking the palette up and trying to get it in frame and whatnot. The only thing I have to do is kind of not get my elbow in the way, just like that. I'm going to put this little piece of cloth underneath my paint so they don't wobble quite as much. I'm going to start by painting the sky, and I'm just going to grab some cobalt blue for that. If we look at the picture of the sky, we can see, I'll put it right there, we can see it's just a pretty bright blue cloudless day. There are a few streaky clouds in here, but not too many, so we don't have a whole lot to do. And I should say I did simplify this image a little bit. I took out the seagulls at the top here, and I think I took out a couple of the sea lions in the back just to make it a little simpler. I also shortened, if you can see that, I shortened the buoy, and I think it's got a nice feel to it now. It was quite tall in the original picture, and I think having it shortened helps out a little bit. It helps us out with the painting. So we'll see. We'll just go with it as it is. All right, I'm just going to put on my sky color out here. There we go, and I'm just going to carefully go around our buoy. There we go, a little bit of color. I see we've got a few people joining us already tonight. A couple of people watching. If you have a question, just throw it out there. I'll do my best to answer. If I've got to stop painting and answer a question, so be it. That's not the worst thing in the world. As long as our paint doesn't get too dried out when we need it to stay a little moist. I think we'll be okay. Just pulling it down just a little bit past the horizon line. I want it a little bit richer, a little bit fuller at the top. While it's still wet, we can just kind of blob that on there. I'm going to take a little bit of it out down here. I want it to thin out at the horizon a little bit. And I had a little bit too much on my paintbrush as I came down on this side, primarily. Something like that. And we're going to be covering up this horizon line with our seawater anyways. I don't want this to be too... there we go. Too light and too... What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say something while I'm trying to concentrate, and it's not working out. I just want to make sure this gets nice and tight around what we're painting out here. As it's drying out and I see that I don't like it, now is a great time to be able to go back in and change it however you want to. Really pretty easy. While that's doing what it's going to do, I'm going to move over to my puddle of ultramarine blue here. Ultramarine, they named. I'm assuming because it's a marine color, and it's good for painting water. I would think that would be why they would name it ultramarine blue. What I want to do, actually, you can see, is just get a little bit of that cobalt blue out of there. While I'm doing this, I should say a lot of the colors in here are Winsor & Newton colors. I think, let's see, the cobalt, the ultramarine, the hooker's green, the cad yellow, the, what's this one? The alizarin crimson, the raw umber, the burnt umber are all Winsor & Newton colors. And if you've used Winsor & Newton colors and let them dry, then you know that, holy cow, they get hard when they dry up. I'm just going to put a little bit of Payne's Gray in there to darken that up just ever so slightly. And I'm going to be real careful. I've done a ruler line of the horizon to make sure that, there we go, to make sure that I get it nice and flat this time. I've painted pictures before and the horizon line has been just a little off, and it looks like the whole world is kind of leaning off to one side. Hello, Tina Marie 23 Art. Welcome to Watercolors with Michael. We're painting live. Good to see you. This really isn't the most exciting part of watercolor. You know what? I don't like this huge brush. I'm going to drop down a size. These are my Art Select brushes, sold by Dana, I believe that is how you say it. Bought them on eBay. And the smaller brushes, I really like. This is a size 2 that I have in my hand right now. The size 2 and the size 1 I really like. I like the look of these bigger ones, this size 6, and what was one I was just using, a size 4. But in practice for me, I find them a little bit cumbersome to use, and if I had to pin it down, well, it would be tough, but I think it's that the bristles aren't quite long enough on that brush. It sounds like a weird kind of a reason, but oh, bonjour, Jocelyn Briere, is that right? I hope that's right. These Art Secret brushes are just not they're not quite, the big ones anyways, not quite what I had hoped for. Luckily for me, I bought these when I wanted to try out a number of different types of mop brushes. So I bought both these ones and the Dana ones. They have a little different shape to them, and of course different sizes. The 1, 3, and 5 come in that set, and I really like those ones. I like all of those ones. Let's see, I'm trying to figure out how to paint on this side. I do it all the time. Sit here and try to figure out how to paint here without turning the page. Some days I do it a lot better than others. Some days not so good. Here we've got it. Normally it's a lot easier to just turn the paper, but sometimes turning the paper in a video is not the best thing. It does kind of mess with the view and whatnot. All right, now that I've gotten around all of that, the rest of this is fairly simple, fairly academic. We don't even need to get the water line down here perfectly straight because, well, it's water. For one thing, it moves all over, and if somebody tells you, well, it's got to be straight, you just tell them, whoa, hang on, that's a wave. That's a wave going right up there, right on past. That's what it looks like. And I'm just going to make this a little bit darker as it comes to the foreground here. The Payne's gray that's in here dries pretty light anyway, but I want it a little bit darker in the foreground. Let me just get a couple of puddles out of there. Now I do have this laying flat. I typically like to paint with this on a little bit of an angle, but I'm having issues with my camera up here trying to figure out how to get it right over the paper when this is tipped up and not in such a place that it's going to bonk me in the head and I'm going to hit it and it's going to get moved around. And so for the time being, I'm painting with it flat. Now just a little bit more of this little bit of detail work in here. Let's see, I have the rear struts, rear metal pieces back there drawn in. I'm just going to paint over them. They're pretty dark. We'll be able to go right over top of that water back there when it dries anyways. Let's see here, trying to see, maybe if I look at this, okay, we have a bar there. Let's see, that is all, let's see, it goes like that. That's close enough. And that bar goes across. Note to self, next time, use a darker pencil. Maybe. I'm always torn between using a darker pencil or not. So a lot of times I don't want to see the pencil lines through my paintings. I'd like to say I'm past that stage and I can see it. It doesn't bother me, but it does kind of bother me. So I want to use a lighter pencil, but if I use a lighter pencil, then, or I mean, if I use a lighter pencil, I can't see it after a couple of layers of washes. If I use a darker pencil, then it always comes through, and half the time it looks like it's too dark. I don't know. Oh, I almost picked that up to move that. We don't have to do that because we have a paint cam. All right, so I've got that on. Yeah, I know this is still a little bit wet, a little bit damp in a couple of places. We're going to be careful about that a little bit. And if it runs a little bit like it has up here, I'm not going to worry about it too much. adds to the charm of it being a watercolor, I think. I'm going to mix up some alizarin crimson and put some of this cad yellow light in it. And I'm trying to mix up a nice batch of it here so that I don't have to go back and recreate this too many times. I didn't make nearly enough of the blue, but I knew I was going to run out regardless of how much of that I had. And I'll probably run out of this and have to remake this, and that's fine. I can deal with it. I'm just looking at the paper. Set that down. Look at the paper. I can turn it and maybe see a little bit of sheen. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. Oh, I've got a question. Oh, Mr. Cynthia G is here. Hello. Yes, a snowbird. Actually, Mr. Cynthia G, actually, I did do a video of a snowbird, a black-capped chickadee, last week. I haven't posted it yet. I'm not entirely thrilled with it. I might do it again. It was a fun bird to paint. My problem was with it, the black-capped chickadee has, of all of the things, who would have thought, it has a black cap, and I don't have black paint, and I kept going over and going over, and it never got quite as dark as I wanted to. But I do have some black paint, so I'm considering doing that again, and that kind of was a fun bird to do. Okay, let's see. Oh, Tina Marie, pencil lines drive you crazy too. I get both sides of the argument with the pencils. Getting back to the pencils, you don't have to cover them up. That's one of the really cool things about watercolor painting, is that the paint is so transparent and is movable, and you know, it's almost a living thing as you're painting, that the fact that you can see some lines underneath just kind of lends to a little bit of you knowing and seeing the work that the artist has done. And I get all that, and I'm on board with it. In my mind, I know that. And then I see a pencil line, and I go, oh, what did I do? This was too dark. This was too light. This was whatever it was. So I'm torn. I've been using, I did this with an H. I don't know if that's harder or softer than a 2H, or a B, or a 2B, or maybe a not 2B pencil. I don't know. Maybe it was Shakespeare's pencil. I'm just I'm trying to be really cautious and get around my number 2 here. Looks like I'm gonna need to turn my page a little bit. Every day I do a video on camera, I keep saying, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna figure out how to do this without turning my page. And I've done a bunch of exercises to try and be able to do this without turning the page, to be able to get to do this side over here, the right hand side, really is tough, because you can't see it nearly as well because your brush bristles are in the way, short of being ambidextrous. It's really pretty tough. And but I've been doing some things, trying to work on it. All right, a lot of this we're just going to fill in here. And if you wanted to, you could vary this color. Would add a little bit of whimsy to this. A little bit more yellow here, a little bit more red there. I'm using the cad yellow pale and alizarin crimson. and mix these a little bit more here and there. Would add a little bit more to your painting. We all know that, and we all sometimes, not all of us, forget it from time to time. Oh, what else we got down here? The B's are soft. The number gets higher, the pencil gets soft. Oh, okay, so I've got a drawing thing of pencils. I've got a number 8 in there, so that is probably really soft, and I bet has some pretty dark lead in it, or graphite. Graphite's a graphite pencil. I don't even know. Do we have lead pencils anymore? I'm not sure. Let's see. Oh, I got a fingerprint. One of the other benefits of painting watercolors is from time to time you get a fingerprint or a palm print or some other kind of print. I need to tip this just a little bit one way or another. I apologize for that. And we got one bar here and another one here. Can go a little bit more quickly if I can tip this a little bit. There we go. All right, that's our basic outline of that, our basic structure. Oh, no, it's not. Look, I've got this whole thing down here to do. I need a little bit more paint. What am I doing? I'm slacking on the job here. Let's see, this paint right under them. So this picture is nice in that the top of this buoy, the flat part of that buoy where all these guys are sitting, is basically at camera level. So that is a straight line, just about like that. There's not a lot more that needs to be done there. We don't have too much of an edge. It rolls a little bit on that edge, but it's not too bad. So we don't have to worry about painting some kind of weird, I don't know, lip that rolls over up there. Ooh, and I don't know if you can see it up here. Getting a nice effect. As soon as I'm done with this, I'm going to dip into a little bit of neutral tint here and paint a little bit down here. Now this would be a little better if this board were slanted just a bit. It's not, and so we'll deal with it. Maybe I'll tip it up a little bit. The capillary action here is going to draw this paint up, or osmosis, or some kind of something. This is going to draw this paint up, and it's going to give us this nice a tide line in there, and we're not going to have to do a whole lot to get that back. There we go. What do I got here? I have a spray bottle. Let me put a spray bottle right there for just a second. It doesn't need to be tilted up much. I just don't want it to flow all the way up there. But if you look up here, you can see, I know we're going to cover some of this up, but it's got this nice little back run here where it was wet. And it looks like I had a little drop of something in the middle here, and it's given a lot of texture to that. I really like that. And I'm going to wait for this to dry because I've got a wet here, and I've got wet here, and I've got white there that I need to take care of before I do too much else. I could do a little bit in the water, but let me see what people are saying. HB2, Mr. Studio G using HB2s. I don't, yeah, you know, a while ago I grabbed one of these, mechanical pencil, but I have no idea what was in there. But I have this is the one I've been drawing with, which is a Stettler which is an H. I'm assuming H means hard, and this one, if I have to go back over something, I use this one. This one is a B. I'm assuming B means darker? I don't know, something like that. Okay, how are we doing here? Have I babbled enough? I'm going to drop down and get the number 1 brush. And this is all my writing, all the printing on this one is about worn off because I used this one quite a bit more than all the others. And I'm going to dip into my raw umber here. And we're going to attempt to paint a couple of these guys. And I'll do myself a favor and I'll try to start over here with the guy furthest on the left. There we go. I should say, if I'm looking over here at my computer, if at some point in time I'm painting off the screen, please just give a shout and let me know. I'm trying not to do it. I'm aware that my paper is slightly longer than the height of the video throw, or the video whatever you call it. The height greater than the height of whatever you can see from the video that I'm shooting with this camera. So if I forget to look over and see how we're doing with that, somebody just say something in the chat and I'll find it eventually, or hopefully I'll just move on and we won't have that issue anymore. I just looked up and I've got a red dot. It says bad video settings. Normally that means my internet is not well. If you guys can still see this, if you can hear me, if the video is still going, somebody just say the video is going and I'll keep going. I've looked over and seen that before, and the videos always seem to be okay. But I'm always a little afraid that my video is going to be knocked out. And this is the best internet I can get out in my garage, which is a long way away from everything else in my house. Uh-oh. Now that I am going to just blot up real quickly. If you didn't see what happened, there was a little pool of this orange color, and I just touched it with the tip of my brush as I was painting, in essence, what is just this big brown mass for these sea lions. At the moment, it's just a brown mass anyways. We're going to come back and fix that in just a second. So I had to dab that up just a little bit. And now I can see kind of where those lines are. It's at this point. It's all good. Thank you, Steven. Perfect for you, Raven. Oh, I think I know who those people are. Good deal. I've got some coworkers in the house. It's not like they don't have to spend enough time with me. They want to spend a little bit more time with me. Okay, I'm going to wet some of this burnt umber here. And there it is. And again, this is Winsor Newton. And it's awfully what I should have done is come out and pre-wetted all of this. Because, man, these Winsor Newton paints really, really dry hard. Well, look at that. I think when I refill these, I might just only refill with M. Graham paints. Okay, here we go. So what I'm doing is, and I'm hoping this color is going to run just a little bit, but I'm adding, as much dimension to these guys as anything. I'm in essence painting everything that's not a highlight on these guys, but by doing that, what I'm hoping is that you'll then be able to see this animal pop out from this brown mass that we've got here. There we go. I think you can see this guy over here pretty well. Let's see. I got a guy, I'm trying to look to see. I got a guy right here that's sleeping, and this guy behind him. And so I'm just going to arbitrarily say that's where the guy behind is. Right there, and then I can paint a little bit on this side. Oh, this guy is sleeping here, I know. I just want to make this, well, I want to make it a big ball of a big old ball of sleeping, or I guess a couple of them aren't really sleeping, sea lions. But I want to do it in such a way that when you look at it, you recognize that, but maybe immediately that's not what comes to mind. So I'm trying to be a little what's the word? I don't know. I don't know. I just want to give the impression of that's what that is. I'm going to leave that like that. Call it good. If this isn't quite right, we can always come back and take a little paint off, or we're going to put a little bit more paint on as that dries. I like where we're going with that. I'm going to come back up here and let's look at the top of our buoy here. So this is our lightest side right here. I'm going to go ahead and give everything that's here on this side, that's kind of this value, I'm going to give that another layer of our color here. Just a little something. It doesn't need to be super, super intense. Really glad I caught your live stream tonight. Tina Marie, I'm glad you caught it too. I hope that you are going to come back and be a regular here on Saturday nights. For that matter, I hope I'm going to be a regular on Saturday nights. No, I'm going to be here. I don't have any plans to do anything else. Got permission from the family and a full support to come and do this. I enjoy it, so I'm going to make it something that I come and do on every Saturday night. And I hope that you're going to come back. I hope you all come back and do this again. There we go. I've got these two sides painted on. I've got a big puddle there I don't really want. Let's see, what else do I want to do? So our shadow underneath here, I'm going to darken this up when I do it, but what I want to do with this color before I move on is just come and hit some of these other places. Maybe in here, right, or here. There's a couple of places in here that there could be another shadow. I'm going to turn this just a bit. Could be a secondary shadow in some of these places. And I want to hit that so we've got a little bit of something else before we come back with our full dark. Just here. And since I've lifted the top of this up, literally the width of a water bottle here, you can see the paint is starting to pool here. If I don't do something about it, it's going to leave me with a big bloom right there. Not necessarily bad, but not necessarily what I want either. Let's see. What color is this little flasher thing up here? You know what? I'm going to make this like really, really red right up on the top. This is a really red strobe light up here. I'm going to do that. The rest of it looks like it's a little solar panel to me. And if I'm going to be doing a little bit of detail up there, I'm going to jump down to... Ooh, oh, bristles are frozen. There we go. I'm going to jump down to this Vinci brush. Grab a little bit of my neutral tint. Not much. Just going to paint a little square up there. It doesn't call for a whole lot more than that. There it is, and I'm going to put just one more line on this side, which is hopefully going to help it add just a little bit of depth to it. There we go. Oh, you didn't know I did it regularly. I've been doing this regularly for 2 weeks now. Maybe 3. But I think only 2. So if you didn't know this was a regular thing, I think you're not alone, as it's fairly new, but it's going to be regular. It's going to be regular every Saturday. What day is today? Every Saturday. It's going to be a thing. All right. What am I doing here? I've got a flipper. I just noticed I've got a flipper over here I didn't paint. Coming off the side. There we go. All right, so my sea lines are still a little bit wet here. I'm going to go back to my bigger brush. And before I can go back and do anything with them, before I can go back and do anything on our buoy up here, I'm going to do a little bit more with our water, which means mixing up a little bit more of my ultramarine blue and mix with the neutral tint. Did I use neutral tint? I used Payne's Gray last time. Payne's Gray. It won't matter a whole lot. If anybody, does anybody use neutral tint and Payne's Gray? I'll just let you see the difference between them. The Payne's Gray, you can see it in the tin there, is a gray, but on the blue end of things. You know, some Payne's Gray even has a little bit of green in there. And the neutral tint is a gray also, but much more purple-ish on there. So you can see what they look like there. I'll put that back. They are both just neutral, very close to the center of the color wheel. So, excuse me. So we could substitute them-ish into all of them if we wanted to, or, you know, between the two if we wanted to. I'm just going to make some big wave marks here. Just probably like you did growing up. Just a nice long movement, gentle movement. Not even here, right? Not a movement here. A movement maybe here or even up at the shoulder. Just almost a big cross. Cross hatch, not a cross, like cross, cross hatch. You know, let me move this up. I just knocked over my water bottle. So you can see. You like my babble. That's funny. I do babble. Well, I don't want there to be a lot of dead air time. So I feel I need to fill some of the space, and now I don't want to cover all of this blue up, but I do want a bit of it covered. We had a number of waves. But I don't want a lot of dead airspace unless maybe I'm trying to figure out how to paint something or concentrating very hard, in which case, if I were to talk, the painting would really suffer. I don't want to do that, but and if you're wondering, yes, much of the time I do talk to myself while I paint. So, oh, there we go. And I actually think it's helpful in this way. If you're talking to yourself while you paint, you're probably talking about what you're painting and what you're doing while you're painting. And as such, you're going to be able to focus more on doing your painting, right? If you talk about making your sea lions just a flat brown and trying to go back in and do each one individually, then that's how you're going to paint. You're going to paint each one individually. If you talk about doing them as a group and just trying to give the impression of all of these sea lions in there, then that's kind of the way you're going to paint them that way. So kind of your talking guides your painting kind of guides your talking, and the whole thing somehow works out. I think it does. Okay, so let's see. I've got, before I can do too much more in here, I've got a few of these members back in here, up here, right, that are really dark. And I had them drawn in here, and if you remember, I said I painted over them. I'm going to mix just our orange color that we're using here with some of this gray, dull it way down. And I want to see how that is going to go in here. I'm just going to, right, we have that structural member back there. It's just back there, and it's kind of muted behind the scenes. Oh, I don't want to touch that guy. I'm going to flip this again this way. Right, it's just kind of back there in the shadows somewhere. Just trying to give this a little bit more depth and definition as we do this. Could you do this painting and not put that on there? Absolutely. Would anybody say, well, hang on, you've only got stuff in the foreground? Nope, I don't think they would. But does it help out a little bit if you've got them there? Yeah, I think probably it does a little bit. Just like it's going to help out when I drop in a bit of dark shadow here and there underneath a couple of these. There's one, there's one. Just where they cross. Got a little bit of extra shadow here and there. And a little bit up there. And now all of this up here we're going to get in just a second. And those marks are probably pretty tiny. They might even be a little bit difficult to see. You don't think you can paint and talk? Come on, I bet you can. After a while, it just kind of gets to be a bit natural. And you don't even think about it anymore. And, oh, what do I want to do with these? You know what? I'm gonna throw everybody a curveball. I'm gonna use a sable brush to paint all of this up here. So this is a number 6 Da Vinci sable brush, and the reason I'm doing this It's not because I don't want to use the other brush, but because this, as you can see here, comes to a really fine point, or maybe I should hold it up here. You see it comes to a very fine point, and more importantly, I'm working in some small areas. It doesn't hold quite as much water as that quill brush does. That quill brush holds a ton of water, and it makes it a little bit harder sometimes to control the amount of water on the paper, which is why a lot of people use it for large washes at the beginning, and then they kind of go away from it after that. Well, the reason is because it really is pretty hard sometimes to control that water level. If you can do it, you're really doing something right. If you can't do it, well, yeah, you're just kind of like the rest of us. All right, I need to turn this just a little bit to get into this corner over here. And if you can see the top of my head or my hair in the screen, I'm sorry about that. There we go. This is just our color that we've been using, this orange-red mixture, with a fair bit of neutral tint mixed in. I think if you were watching the paint cam, I think you've seen me do it in there. I'm trying to look to see how to do this without, come on Michael, quick confident stroke. There we go. Without getting my elbow or my arm or something into my wet water paint of water, watercolor, my wet paint, whatever it is, however you say it. All right, here's our first shadow coming together. There we go, and you can see, come on, you can see how it resembles that. Mix up a little bit more of this. Where's my gray? Much more red. There we go. I've got some to do in here. What's wet and what isn't wet? What can I tell? I've already got some here. Oh, here we go. The rest of it relatively easy after that, I say, as... Ooh, I think so. Oh, and I felt that. I got some brown from the sea lion. See, this is what I didn't want to have to do. Now I'm turning this all over, because I can't quite reach around enough. There we go, but now look at the picture. It looks like it's getting a lot more depth and a lot more detail on it, right? I think so. I'm going to drop down a size or two. Where's the one I was using? Well, this is a size 2, it says. Ooh, quite hard. I haven't used these in a long, long time. So, oh, wow. Have I ever used it? That is tough stuff. There we go, there we go, okay. So I'm gonna attempt to draw a few lines. If they're not perfect, if they're not super straight, I'm not gonna worry about it. That broken line, if it's a little bit of a broken line in there, your eye actually is going to read it as more of a true thing than if it were a perfectly straight line and everything was all good about it. I don't know how that works. I just know that it works. So don't worry too much about having to draw a perfect line if you're trying to do this, because you don't really need it. I'm looking down here to see where I can set my wrist a little bit. And these are just little details that you can put in if you would like. If you don't want to do them, your painting will look perfectly fine without them. But I think a few of these lines in there really help a bit. I think I'm going to leave that just about like it is. I think if I go back and do more, that I'm just playing with it. And I don't want to do that. What I want to do is work on my sea lines a little bit. I'm going to mix up a little bit more of my... Oh, I forget I don't have to pick that up. I don't have to pick it up and move it. The camera's going to do that. It's got right there. A little bit more of my burnt umber here. And I'm going to try to further define the look of these guys. And I'm going to actually put some on. And all I'm looking for is to get my hard edges where I want them. Right, so differentiate the back of the sleeping one here from the sea lion behind it. And then I'm going to soften that edge out. Just get it wet, just get my brush wet, dip it in the water, tap it off a little bit, and just run it over there just to soften that edge up a little bit. I don't need it to go away. I just need it to soften a little tiny bit. And that's going to provide us with kind of a rounded look on this guy. Let's see, I'm going to do this one the same way. He comes down, and the back of that one that's laying there is right there. Let's see, he might have a little bit, something like that. All right, so by painting the ones in the back, those two behind this one, you can see now that I've, in essence, painted the one in front. And that's what we want. Right now, I can finish this one in front. Well, actually, you know what? I'm going to do all of them behind. I'm going to jump back to this one. Come on, burnt umber. There we go. And you could do this a number of different ways. You could put this extra layer of burnt umber on. You could vary it. You could use an ochre if you wanted to. You could use an ochre for the first layer. You could, do lots of different things. It's just that for me in this palette, I had these colors, burnt umber and raw umber, and they're close to what these sea lions are. So there we go. We've got those, and now I've got two here that I can see are sleeping, and this one behind that one just slightly. He's got a big behind here, it looks like, or something. All right, and I think I want to just kind of take that down a little bit further. Well, this one doesn't look quite as nice as I had hoped. I'm going to put a little bit more in the middle here. I think that's going to help. If I have more paint here and then soften that edge, I think that he looks better already. Putting a little bit more paint, defining him a little bit more on the inside, I think has helped out. There you go. And our last one, who's just kind of like a sea lion sausage or something here. I don't know what he is. He's just laying flat here. Oh, I dipped into the neutral tint just a little bit. I'm not sure I wanted to do that. There we go. There, he's sleeping right there. Kind of like that, soften that edge up. I'm going to pull that down so it looks like a head maybe there. I'm not happy with this. I'm not happy with this burnt umber here tonight. I'll tell you that. It's not working quite the way I want it to work. But I think it's going to be good enough. And if we wanted to, we could come in and darken a little bit more of our waves here. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to be a little bit tricky here. I'm going to try something. I'm going to wipe away our shadow orange color. I'm going to go back and make some new. And I'm going to put it a little bit on our side here. I'm looking at this and I want this to be a bit rounder than it is, so maybe a little bit redder over here. There we go. I think this will help, and this will also help us define that lip that's on the side. I can do the same thing on this side. A little bit more of this color. Let's see, where's the lip? Is right there. And down. Just get a little bit of that. I just got a little bit of water on my brush, and I'm actually painting back into it ever so slightly. And if I follow that line out and just put a little bit, it'll probably look like a weld line out there where they put this thing together. I'm just going to put a little bit of color underneath where they're at. Kind of like that, and I'm pretty happy with that. I'm not happy with that. I have one other thing to do. I'm going to cheat a little bit with this. I'm going to draw. Maybe not with this one. Let me find a marker that works. I'm going to draw some faces on these guys. And a bit of a nose. An eye. This guy. There we go. Oh, that was bad. An eye here. Bit of a nose. And a mouth. And I'm going to sign it at the bottom, right about here. There you go. I think that's going to do it for tonight. I'm pretty happy with that. I got a couple of sea lions on an ocean buoy floating on the water. Thank you guys for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you stop back again next week, next Saturday. Check back once during the week, sometimes Wednesday, sometimes Thursday. Post once during the week. other than that, I hope you enjoyed it. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. I'd like to see you back in the studio again. If not, thanks everybody for being for the stream, and we'll see you next week. All right. Bye-bye.